For most seafarers, the closest they will come to a helicopter is during an emergency. Dramatic scenes like these, though, are rare. But there are many occasions when helicopters are used on routine operations, 24 hours a day. Often these tasks involve journeys to and from ships, oil and gas platforms and other offshore installations, moving cargo and personnel quickly and efficiently. Whatever the mission, tried and tested working practices ensure its safety and success, time after time. This three-part video and the accompanying booklet covers basic helicopter safety, helideck and ship preparations, and some of the more common operational and emergency procedures. It will show you what happens and what to do during helicopter operations at sea. Despite their excellent safety record, helicopters are inherently dangerous machines. This section of the video looks at the precautions you must take before you go on board and what you can expect to happen during your journey. First, your own responsibilities. Unless you are taking professional equipment, you must not carry with you firearms, alcohol or drugs, acids or corrosives, explosives, gas bottles, poisons, radioactive materials, flammable liquids or materials, or magnetic materials. Unlike fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters have main and tail rotors which sweep a wide area around the aircraft and create strong and unpredictable gusts of air. If a ground marshal or marshals are present, always report to them first. They will be standing in a safe position and will instruct you on the route to be taken to your seat on the aircraft. But many airfields, platforms or ship's decks have no ground control staff to direct you. So here's how to enter a helicopter safely. Unless you have been cleared to enter the helicopter, always keep well outside the arc of the main rotor disc and stay well away from the rear of the aircraft because the arc of the tail rotor, which spins vertically, is often nearer the ground than the main horizontal rotor or rotors. Another reason why you should not approach a helicopter from the rear is that no one on the flight deck can see you. Come out to a position 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock of the front of the aircraft. Never smoke while preparing to board. Approach the area in front of the helicopter boldly and make the captain or co-pilot fully aware of your presence. Normally, the captain sits on the starboard side of the aircraft. Indicate that you wish to approach and secure any clothing or equipment you're carrying. Don't move until you receive a signal. Something else may be going on that you're unaware of, and the crew may not be ready to receive you. When you're cleared to approach, do so at right angles to the fuselage and duck down as you walk under the main rotor. Go straight, don't wander around. Then, when boarding, approach the air stair door, also at right angles to the fuselage. Helicopters usually face into the wind, and any exhaust gases should be blown away to the rear. However, gusting wind may blow hot exhaust gases around you as you approach, so be prepared. Some helicopters are fitted with a high-frequency radio. This system requires a set of aerial wires on the outside of the aircraft. If an HF radio transmission is made while the aircraft is on the ground and you are near the aerial, or operate a mobile phone or radio close to it, you risk receiving serious burns. Mobile phones should be switched off. Many aircraft nowadays have navigational equipment controlled by computers, and mobile phones can affect these systems. In order to fly, the main helicopter rotor blades force air downwards, producing powerful air turbulence called downwash, sometimes known as downdraft. Never underestimate the force of downwash, particularly in still conditions when there is no wind. It can be hard to breathe. Before a helicopter puts down, the landing or winching area must be checked for any loose objects that might be blown around by downwash. These should be cleared away or lashed down to avoid them damaging the helicopter or injuring personnel. Depending on the number of passengers, there will be an appropriate crew and equipment to match. The size and role of the aircraft will dictate its equipment fit. Emergency services helicopters may, for example, carry stretchers and mobile resuscitation equipment. On reaching the air stair door, you'll be beckoned into the aircraft by a member of the crew and shown your seat. Don't push forward when boarding or disembarking, and always obey the cabin signs. There is a set emergency procedure for your type of aircraft, and you'll be advised of this before takeoff. The emergency exits will be pointed out and the seat belt demonstrated to you. You should never leave the seat unless you're asked to do so. In the unlikely event of an emergency, the crew will make you aware of the situation. Immediately tighten your seat belt. Stay calm. Loose articles should be placed under your feet. Remove spectacles, headsets, and any other sharp objects. Before an impact, adopt the brace position as directed by the crew. Brace, and wait until everything stops moving. All helicopters operating offshore have either an amphibious hull or fuselage, or are fitted with flotation gear, or both. Over water, the same principles apply. When the aircraft lands, again, wait until all movement has ceased and the engines and rotor blades have come to a standstill. Before an emergency landing, locate your seat belt buckle with one hand and the direction of the nearest emergency exit with the other. Release your seat belt. Emergency exits and jettison handles may illuminate to guide you towards them. Any window fitted with a red tag may be used as an emergency exit. Pull the tag towards you and the beading will come out. Push out the window. Do not inflate your life jacket until you're well clear of the aircraft. After ditching at sea, leave the aircraft and board the life raft. If on the ground, run upwind of the helicopter to a muster point, where the aircrew will marshal you together. Finally, one of the major safety considerations in helicopter operations is the all-up weight. Make sure you know the weight of each item, or let the crew weigh it, so they can calculate takeoff weight. By following these basic safety procedures, you will contribute towards a safe and uneventful flight. This section of the video is intended for ship's crews and helideck landing parties preparing for the arrival of a helicopter. Before any helicopter operation at sea, the landing site or winching area must be prepared. All loose articles must be stowed away, lashed down, or removed from the area. A purpose-built helideck will have a non-slip surface and the correct deck markings. a letter H or yellow spot, which should be clearly visible to the pilot. A windsock or flag may be available to indicate the wind direction. Helidecks should be inspected regularly to ensure that their condition meets the relevant safety standards. When the helicopter arrives, its crew will carry out a risk assessment of the landing site or winching area before attempting to land or carry out a transfer. The aircraft will come in almost overhead, rehearsing its run in and out of the target area. It will also do a power check.
Make present course is 154.
Any information the ship can provide for the helicopter will be most valuable. The roll or pitch of the ship, for example, and also the weight that the particular landing area can carry. Point loading is the amount of pressure on a single small area of the deck surface. A heavy aircraft will concentrate its weight, often up to 10 tons, onto 3 points, its undercarriage. Where there is no specified area, the chosen site must be free of loose articles and debris. Everything must be tied down or secured prior to winching or landing, including ship's derricks and other handling equipment. All gas venting should be stopped. Check the entry and exit direction for the helicopter and make sure there is a safe working area. In particular, watch out for radar scanners, aerials, stays, or any obstacle that infringes the rotor disc area. They should be struck, if possible, or their presence pointed out to the helicopter crew. Where possible, the ship's side rails should be lowered. Only essential personnel should enter the landing or winching area. Non-slip footwear and brightly coloured protective clothing must be worn. Protective headgear must be fastened with a chin strap to prevent it being blown off by the helicopter downwash. All helicopters generate static electricity, which can give a powerful shock, sometimes even fatal. As here, a static line is often used to earth the current to the ship's hull or the sea before the person or load touches the deck. Alternatively, one of the crew may use an insulated static rod for making direct contact with the load or hoist wire. If a potential flash hazard exists because of venting or escaping gases, the helicopter crew must be advised. Some shipping companies insist that a fire crew should be closed up, ready for action, whenever a helicopter operation is being carried out, and a rescue boat cleared for launching. The helicopter and the Coast Guard should be informed if the ship is carrying hazardous materials. At night, helicopter crews may be using night vision goggles and infrared equipment known as FLIR to enhance aircrew's view of the scene. FLIR is especially useful for identifying people in the water during a search and rescue operation. Although the working area may be floodlit, you must never shine a light directly at the helicopter. This could affect the pilot's night vision and put the helicopter, its crew, and the success of the entire mission at risk. And never fire rockets if a helicopter is nearby. Some vessels, such as floating storage units and semi-submersible drilling vessels, are fitted with ship movement indicators. They're required to pass on information on the vessel's pitch, roll and heave to assist the pilot and to give him an idea of the angle of the deck he'll be landing on. In any winching or transfer operation, it's vital that no one leaves the aircraft or cargo is transferred until a plan has been agreed and everyone clearly understands what is about to happen. All members of the helicopter crew and the ship's landing party should wear ear protection to filter out engine and rotor noise and to ensure good all-round communication. Initial communication with the vessel or offshore installation will be established using one of the marine VHF radio channels, for example, channels 13 or 16. If it's not possible to link up immediately by radio, contact will be made using hand signals or by showing a blackboard. The helicopter will go alongside and the blackboard will be shown through the cargo door. While winching is going on, it's important to restrict other radio communications to urgent messages concerning the safety of the operation, a snagged wire, or a sudden necessity to change course, for example. During a rescue operation, personnel working below need to be aware of high noise levels when the helicopter is directly overhead. On-board communications may be severely restricted. Conversations should be short and to the point, using key words and expressions understood by everyone taking part. The aim is to convey as much information in as few words as possible.
Checking the windshield gear.
Roger.
Windshield gear is correct. He's on channel 0.
Above all,
50 foot now.
thorough preparation and clear communication between everyone taking part will ensure that helicopter operations at sea are completed safely and efficiently.
I'm going out the door.
The final section of this video looks at some of the standard and emergency procedures carried out during helicopter operations at sea. Aircraft operate most efficiently when they're facing into the wind, and in almost every type of helicopter, the captain sits on the right-hand side of the cockpit. So, almost all helicopter operations are carried out with the ship or offshore installation in a position about 1 to 2 o'clock to the right of the helicopter. During routine transfers, the ship will usually be requested to sail with the wind 40 degrees on the port bow. This course must be maintained throughout the operation, and the helicopter must be warned of any deviations from the agreed course and speed. Transfers are frequently carried out at the stern of the vessel, giving the pilot good visual references on the mast or part of the superstructure to align the aircraft. If time permits, the pilot will carry out a reconnaissance, a dummy run, picking the safe way in and out to the landing or winching area. This exercise is also used to inspect the approach for obstructions or possible hazards, and to establish that the proposed transfer spot is a good site. An alternative site may be selected by the helicopter crew, especially during an emergency operation. The crew will also look out for loose objects which might be affected by the helicopter's downwash, and will request that these are removed or secured. Winching is carried out by a winch operator, who will lower and raise a winchman to and from the ship. The winchman, wearing a harness, will first attach himself to the hook attached to a cable. Once the winchman leaves the aircraft, he will use hand signals to request the pilot and winch operator to position him as he approaches the stern of the ship. Static electricity generated by the helicopter must be earthed before the winchman makes contact with the vessel. A static line may be attached to the end of the winching hook, and this must contact the deck or the water surface to discharge the static current. When he reaches the deck, he disconnects from the cable and the helicopter will move away. Once on deck, the winchman is responsible for safety in the transfer area. The cable must never, ever be connected to the vessel, as this poses a serious risk to the helicopter. Passengers may be lifted into a helicopter using either single or double lift strops. The strop is put behind the shoulders and under the arms and may be secured with a small collar called a becket. You would not normally be expected to fit the strop yourself. This will usually be done for you by the winchman. Please remember that not all strops are fitted with a becket, so it is essential that you keep your arms down by your sides. Do not reach up to grasp the cable, or you risk slipping out of the strop. When you reach the aircraft, the crew will pull you in using the handle on the back of the strop. Do not attempt to maneuver yourself. Another winching technique involves the use of a high line to assist in the transfer of personnel or equipment to or from a vessel. This method is used when the helicopter cannot winch from the vertical because of the vessel's design or during severe weather. Weights are attached to a nylon line to keep it vertical. The inboard end of the line is attached via a weak link to the winch hook. The weak link will break if the high line is snagged on the vessel or an obstruction. Small vessels, such as a yacht or fishing vessel, roll and pitch more than larger vessels. The masts of these vessels present a hazard to a helicopter. The captain will request the vessel to take up a heading. If in doubt, in all cases, stop and be a dead ship in the water. The helicopter will do the rest for you. The weighted high line is lowered to the deck. The helicopter then moves back. Now, equipment or personnel can be lowered on the winch cable, which is attached to this line. The vessel's crew take in the slack and then haul the incoming personnel on board. This may take 2 people. At no time attach the line or hook to any part of your vessel. On small vessels, you should switch off your navigational aids to avoid a possible static discharge. Remember that high-frequency microwave transmitters can pose a risk of burns to a descending winchman. A helicopter at close quarters, especially after a quiet spell at sea, can be very disorientating. It's big and noisy, and the downwash can be very powerful. This sudden change in environment and the arrival of the winchman can be an alarming experience. The winchman will attach himself to the person or article to be raised to the helicopter. The winchman will then ask the deck crew to control the swinging of the winch cable as the load is taken up and the cable moves out underneath the helicopter. Remember, the high line is nylon, so you should be wearing gloves to avoid rope burns. As the winchman demonstrates, when the operation is over, the line should be held out at arm's length to be taken in by the winch operator. Do not simply throw the high line overboard, as it may then snag on some part of the vessel. Once the winchman is safely on board, the high line will be recovered. Emergencies at sea can happen with terrifying suddenness. Fire, explosion, capsize. The speed of events is breathtaking and confusing. Over countless missions, helicopters have established themselves as a key component in successful rescue operations at sea. Search and rescue helicopters are fully equipped for medical evacuations, or medivacs. Their crews are trained in first aid, and some helicopters may carry a doctor. As well as the transfer and winching techniques already seen, a hypothermic lift may be used to recover a survivor who has been in the water for a long time. When someone is lifted vertically from the water after a long immersion, there is a rapid flow of blood away from the heart, sometimes with fatal consequences. To avoid this, a double strop hypothermic lift harness will be used. One strop is passed under the shoulders and a second under the knees, and the lift is carried out horizontally. The US Coast Guard sometimes uses a different method. The winchman will be lowered with a basket, and the survivor or survivors will be raised in it to the helicopter. The survivors may be ordered to jump into the water first. Rescue from a life raft is similar to a small boat. In both cases, shipwrecked seafarers can assist the helicopter in several ways. Before you abandon ship, take the ship's emergency radio beacon, the EPIRB, with you. Its signals will be picked up by a satellite orbiting overhead and passed on to the search and rescue services. Search and rescue helicopters are equipped to receive the EPIRB's homing signal on 121.5 MHz. Deploy a sea anchor to slow the life raft's rate of drift and to keep its head into the sea. As the helicopter appears over the horizon, fire a smoke flare. When the helicopter arrives, try to collapse the raft's canopy so that the winchman can be lowered directly on board. Increasingly, passenger ferries and cruise ships are being equipped with marine evacuation systems that allow large numbers of people to be evacuated quickly into life rafts down slides or chutes. However, these systems may be affected by helicopter downwash, and aircraft operations may be limited while they're in use. Further information on the procedures and regulations governing helicopter operations at sea can be found in the booklet accompanying this video. Every day, around the world, helicopters provide a speedy and reliable link between ships and offshore platforms and the coast. By knowing what to do when a helicopter arrives at your vessel or platform, you will play a valuable part in a unique and irreplaceable service to seafarers.